Earlier, I spoke with John Quelch. He is Dean at the University of Miami's Herbert Business School, and I asked him what he thought was behind Thursday's massive market rebound in New York when the Dow was down around 800 points but ended up well in the green. Take a listen to what he had to say.
I think there's a different set of psychologies driving the market. Obviously, there are some people who are very skittish about the price premium that the market has baked in over the last year, and they are skittish. And on any geopolitical risk scenario such as we face at the moment, combined with uncertainty regarding the inflation rate and uncertainty regarding the Federal Reserve interest rate program, we're going to naturally see some people selling off. There are going to be other people who see that as a buying opportunity, maybe prematurely, because we don't know how long this is going to play out. And I would say, sad to say in a way, the longer and stronger the Ukrainian resistance is to the Russian invasion, the more damage there will be to the global economy. There will be more disruption to supply chains for especially wheat and corn and certain commodities such as palladium that Ukraine is particularly important as a global source of. So I think that the market doesn't know which way to turn at the moment, and we don't, I think, yet see the bottom.
We've got oil above $100 a barrel, natural gas up 30%, gold a one-year high, money going into bonds. But it does seem to me that commodities are going to be the initial victims of this, really. Russia is a huge exporter of wheat and crude oil and gas, and Americans are looking like paying another 5 to 20 cents a gallon in the immediate future. Do you think that's right? Commodities is the immediate difficulty?
Well, commodities are, of course, the number one export from Russia. And we need to break it down a little bit. So obviously the Europeans are heavily dependent on natural gas and oil coming out of the Russian Republic. They are going to be very skittish about putting any limits on the availability of oil and gas coming into Europe. Yes, they have shut off the Nord Stream pipeline by severing the security waiver for the Nord Stream subsidiary of Gazprom, the Swiss-based subsidiary that is overseeing that particular project. But the Europeans cannot immediately substitute Qatari, Saudi, U.S. Energy supply for what they receive from Russia. So it looks as though energy exports from Russia are going to be off the agenda in terms of sanctions. And by the way, Mr. Putin and his colleagues are making substantial incremental profits over what they would have otherwise made as a result of the rise in the oil and gas prices that you refer to.
Yeah, now I wanted to ask you about that as well, because Putin has been insulating his economy over the last 5 years, hasn't he? Could you briefly tell us how he's done that? And presumably that's not a long-term thing. It can't go on forever for him, right?
Right. After the 2014 Crimea invasion and the subsequent sanctions, Putin, with his long-term ambition to restore the boundaries of the old Soviet Union, decided to limit his exposure, particularly to U.S. treasuries. He shifted the international reserves of Russia towards euro bonds. Because, of course, he knows that the European Union is dependent, as we've said, on his energy sales to them. So shifted from U.S. treasuries to euros, also developed a new system for international payments that attempts to substitute for the SWIFT system, that if Russia is precluded from participating, will really, I think, make it difficult for European consumers of Russian energy to actually pay their Russian suppliers. So this is one reason why among the UK sanctions that were promulgated today by Boris Johnson, the banning of Russia from the SWIFT system of international payments was not included because our understanding is that other G7 members objected to that ban. No doubt because it would preclude European countries from paying Russia conveniently for its energy supplies.
Now, I don't know whether this is a naive question from me, but the UK has just announced a list of 100 of the richest people in Russia that it now wants to target. That's on top of the 5 or so that were not particularly rich, I'm told, that they announced earlier this week. And we do have a Democratic senator suggesting on Twitter now that the administration here will go after President Putin himself. Now, am I naive to ask whether, isn't that in a sense one of the best levers that the West has, because these people are not going to be able to access any of their money, right?
Well, yes and no. First of all, they've had a number of weeks or months to prepare for this eventuality, and I'm sure that they've been doing whatever has been necessary to protect and divert their assets. But secondly, in addition to that, on the positive side, one thing that's helpful in the case of Russia is that such a high percentage of the GDP is really in the hands of 100 or 500 people. And therefore, you can actually have a very substantial impact on the economy
yes.
Very quickly by targeting that limited number of individuals as well as their children. Now, one thing I just want to say in addition is that, you know, Boris Johnson has opportunistically seized this moment by virtue of being no longer associated with the EU. He's been able to actually take a leadership position and set the tone for both the US and for the European Union. And it'll be very interesting to see the degree to which the EU and the US pick up and follow all of the measures that he has announced today.
Yes. Now, John, we just have 1 minute left, and we are on a Chinese television station, you know that. Are the Chinese going to step in now and buy Russian technology and Russian oil, keep them going?
Well, certainly there has been, as you well know, an improvement in the relationship between Beijing and Moscow over the last several months. And President Putin, of course, did appear at the Beijing Olympics. It's almost inevitable in this kind of environment that two significant powers who are at odds with the third, i.e. the US, are going to perhaps try and figure out how to collaborate for their mutual self-interest. That's just the reality of geopolitics.
Okay. And that's John Quelch talking to me earlier today. He is the Dean at the University of Miami's Herbert Business School.